She endured harsh ridicule. At the most lavish financial gala in all of Europe, her unbranded satin dress, flat shoes, and hair styled simply were the subject of amusement on every velvet staircase. It seems like a staff member has mistakenly entered the VIP lounge, one noblewoman murmured. Who is she to be seated near the shareholder board? Every glance seemed to overlook her, as though her presence was an unintentional oversight. Then the organizer's phone rang. Shortly afterward, the Marlowe family lawyer arrived, and unexpectedly, she became the sole heir to a billion-dollar empire. Marlowe Hall stood as a monument to wealth, its limestone facade glowing under the starlit skies of the English countryside. The mansion, with its sprawling gardens and baccarat chandeliers, served as the central hub of Europe's financial elite, having hosted the 70th birthday gala of Genevieve Marlowe, chairwoman of Marlowe and Company. A bastion of established wealth, the institution stood as the continent's oldest private bank. The atmosphere glowed with Dior gowns, Patek Philippe watches, and the delicate sound of crystal flutes. Invitations, adorned with gold leaf, listed names synonymous with powerful families. Rothschild, Agnelli, von Habsburg. No media entered the iron gates. No guest not pre-approved stepped across the marble threshold. This was a realm shaped by heritage, where lineage held value and discretion was a fault. Behind the velvet ropes, a retired professor in Hong Kong observed a private live stream, his frail hands holding a faded photo, his eyes focused on a young woman's solitary grace. Eva Sinclair entered the grand hall, her satin dress, a soft ivory, unbranded, flowing simply, reflecting the chandelier light. Her flat shoes made a quiet sound on the polished floor, her black hair tied low, with no jewelry on her wrists or neck. At 26, Eva possessed a subtle beauty, her almond eyes and gentle features glowing with a peaceful clarity, reminiscent of a still lake at dawn. Growing up in a modest Hong Kong flat, she had lost her mother at a young age and was raised by her father, a disowned heir who taught literature and rejected wealth. She had studied finance at a local university, worked as a translator for a small NGO, and maintained a frugal lifestyle, her heart molded by service rather than status. She arrived this evening as the guest of Hans Berger, chairman of Switzerland's largest investment fund, her appearance unannounced, her understated style a surprise amidst the elaborate gowns and jewels. The attendees' gazes followed Eva as she moved across the room, their murmurs cutting like shards of glass. Beatrice Langley, a British aristocrat in a $60,000 Dior gown, turned to her companion, her voice audible on the live stream. Was this a case of staff being allowed at galas now? She scoffed, her diamond tiara catching the light. Amusement spread among the assembled guests, many secretly recording Eva's simple dress with their phones. Marcus Vellier, a French hedge fund manager sporting a $15,000 Patek watch, smiled from his table. Observe her wrist, not even a Cartier, he remarked, prompting laughter from his companions. Eva's fingers lightly touched her sash. Her expression remained calm, yet the atmosphere was thick with scorn. Her father's face on the live stream became strained, the insults feeling like a blow to his pride, and the audience pulsed with anger, a spark awaiting ignition. The ridicule intensified, evolving into a planned attack on Eva's appearance. A group of heiresses, adorned in $40,000 gowns, arranged themselves in a semicircle, their voices a poisonous chorus. She likely stumbled and unintentionally, one hissed, flinging a silk napkin towards Eva's feet, or worse, his short-term guest. Another displayed a jeweled phone, exclaiming, "She's a thrift store attendee. I bet she's never experienced a gala." Phones illuminated, their private messages harsh, while Marlowe focused on her, taking pictures of her plain shoes. A German banker loudly declared, "She's lowering the standards of this event." The crowd's laughter felt like a public condemnation, every word a sting against Eva's quietness. Her father's face on the live stream showed distress, each insult hurting his daughter's honor. The audience's anger escalated, their hearts racing, indignant at this group's persistent cruelty. The upper class's disdain became hostile as Eva proceeded through the hall, their taunts a deliberate challenge. A cluster of banking heiresses in $45,000 couture gowns created a blockade, their voices a spiteful blend. She's a detriment to Marlowe's reputation. One scoffed, knocking a champagne flute's rim to scatter droplets by Eva's feet. Return to the slums, darling. Someone gestured with a jeweled phone, declaring her dress resembles a tablecloth. I doubt she's ever attended a genuine gala. Mobile phones captured the moment, with private messages flooding with hashtags like Marlowe mistake, focusing on her simple shoes. A Russian tycoon exclaimed, "She's a disrespect to every legacy present." The audience's laughter felt overwhelming, each comment a sharp blow against Eva's composed demeanor. Her father's expression on the live stream conveyed deep distress, every remark a painful injury to his daughter's honor. The audience's anger escalated, their hearts racing, outraged by this deliberate humiliation, their fury burning to challenge the elite's pride. Genevieve Marlowe, the evening's host, came down the grand staircase, her $100,000 emerald necklace sparkling. She stopped close to Eva's table, her silver hair elegant, her voice filled with disdain. "I'm not sure who you are, dear," she stated, loud enough for the live stream to record. This table was designated for individuals sharing the name. Her companions chuckled, their jewelry sparkling, cameras recording Eva's composed expression. "Maybe you would feel more at ease with the staff," Genevieve suggested, indicating a side entrance. The attendees applauded, their derision a powerful surge, their hushed conversations murmuring, "Hatch, an uninvited guest." Eva's almond-shaped eyes met Genevieve's, unwavering, though a tremor ran through her. Her father's hands shook during the live stream, the host's actions feeling like a painful blow to his daughter's self-esteem. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts aching for Eva, and they were outraged by this public humiliation. Genevieve Marlowe's contempt grew sharper, her statements intended as a calculated attack to harm Eva in front of the global elite. "You're not just out of place, you're an embarrassment," she stated, her $100,000 emerald necklace sparkling as she indicated Eva's satin dress. "Hans Berger seemed to have made a questionable decision in inviting you." A wave of laughter spread through her group, their diamonds sparkling, and cameras focused on Eva's simply styled hair. "You're a charity case, not a guest," Genevieve remarked, her words carried by the live stream's concealed microphones. "This hall is for established figures, not cast-offs." The attendees echoed, their disapproval a rising tide, their private conversations swirling. Had Marlowe felt shame? Eva's almond-shaped eyes held a controlled intensity, but her smile remained steady, a defense against the disappointment. Her father's hands trembled during the live stream. The public humiliation felt like a sharp blow to his daughter. The audience's anger was overwhelming, their sympathy directed towards Eva, while they were outraged by this woman's betrayal, now visible to everyone. The disapproval of the powerful became cruel, their words a poisonous chorus. Sylvia Reinhardt, a Dutch media heiress wearing a $50,000 couture dress, moved closer, her voice distinct within the room. She seemed insignificant, likely paid to attend, she remarked, her words carried by the live stream's concealed microphones. Her associates concurred, one adding, "Her father must also be unremarkable. No wonder he isn't present." Numerous notifications appeared, private messages rapidly spreading, focusing on Eva's simply styled hair. A British lord's daughter exclaimed, "She is a disgrace to Marlowe's heritage." The laughter intensified, each remark feeling like a painful blow aimed at Eva's heart. Her father's face on the live stream conveyed immense distress, each falsehood a blow to his daughter's reputation. The audience's outrage surged, their anger a powerful force directed at this planned act of cruelty, hoping for justice to dismantle the elite's sense of superiority. The gala's staff, accustomed to remaining unseen, participated in the derision with understated remarks. A waiter, offering champagne, stopped close to Eva, speaking in a quiet but clear tone. "Miss, the service entrance is that way," he said, gesturing toward a side door, his smirk reflected by nearby guests. "We don't typically seat guests of your kind at the main tables," he added, eliciting laughter from the elite. Numerous onlookers captured Eva's serene face, their private conversations circulating, a staff mistake. The crowd's approval felt like a stifling wave, their arrogance a public humiliation. Eva straightened her sash, her almond eyes steady, but her father's live stream feed displayed his face falling, the staff's involvement a new disappointment. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this display of institutional cruelty, their fury ignited, threatening to destroy the hall's dignity. The gala's staff, instructed to protect Marlowe Hall's reputation, added their disdain to the elite's insults with sharp remarks. A maitre d', elegantly dressed, stopped close to Eva's table, his voice dripping with derision. "Miss, this section is reserved for invited guests only," he stated, ensuring the livestream could hear. He indicated her unbranded dress with a gesture, and a smirk spread across his face, reflected by those around him. "Your attire suggests you're in the incorrect area," he added, prompting laughter from the attendees. Phones recorded Eva's calm expression as private messages circulated, labeling the incident a gala oversight. The audience's agreement felt oppressive, their confidence a public embarrassment. Eva straightened her sash, her almond eyes steady, but her father's live stream revealed his face falling, the staff's involvement a new injury. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this institutional failing, their fury burning against the hall's reputation. Murmurs grew louder, the guests' disapproval becoming a worldwide event through the private live stream. A Monaco princess's cousin published an unidentified intruder, focusing on Eva's simple dress. A guest messaged, calling her a fake, a claim shared by a banking heir. The son of a French diplomat loudly suggested she forged her invitation, causing laughter to ripple through the hall. Hidden comments on the live stream surged with demands. "Eject her. Imposter." A woman wearing a $30,000 Valentino gown exclaimed, "She's humiliating Marlowe Hall. Someone stop this." Eva's hands remained still, her almond-shaped eyes focused on the distance. Her father's face on the live stream conveyed immense suffering, each online criticism feeling like a personal insult to his daughter. The audience's outrage was palpable, their emotions aligned with Eva's, yearning for this worldwide humiliation to cease. The guests' harshness escalated as they spread damaging stories, their voices a poisonous torrent intensified by the live stream. A Spanish duke's daughter moved closer, her $60,000 tiara sparkling, and said in a noticeable tone, "She's a fraud, likely coerced Berger to gain entry." Her companions acknowledged, their diamonds reflecting the light, one stating, "Her father's probably not even real, just a story to trick her here." Phones illuminated, private messages overflowing with falsehoods, as someone speculated, enlarging the image of Eva's loosely tied hair. A London financier exclaimed, "She's an imposter. Paulo has been deceived." The laughter resonated, each rumor a painful blow aimed at Eva's heart. Her father's image on the live stream displayed a face filled with anguish, each falsehood a hurt to his daughter's reputation. The audience's anger surged, their sympathies with Eva, their frustration a powerful force against this harmful accusations, eager for the truth to expose the elite's deceptions. A change occurred when Genevieve's secretary, a perceptive woman in a professional suit, visibly lost color during a phone call. Her phone vibrated repeatedly, and her voice shook as she spoke quietly to an assistant. The attendees observed, their quiet conversation stopping, phones being put down. The secretary quickly approached Genevieve, speaking urgently but softly, stating, "It's the Marlowe family's legal firm. The new heir is arriving immediately." The hall became still, the sound of crystal glasses being replaced by a feeling of anticipation. Eva remained composed, her satin dress unaffected by the disruption, her almond-shaped eyes peaceful. Her father's face on the live stream appeared gentler, a brief sign of hope visible in his expression. A palpable sense of excitement and apprehension filled the room, a mix of anger and anticipation hinting at an impending revelation. 10 minutes passed, and then the large doors opened, revealing a man in a gray suit, Edward Grayson, the personal lawyer for the deceased Alfred Marlowe, Genevieve's grandfather. He carried a sealed envelope and a single sheet of paper. The assembled group made way for him, their jewels losing their brilliance, their expressions strained. Grayson spoke, his voice calm amidst the quiet, stating, "By directive of Alfred Marlowe's last will, the board of Marlowe and Compion is required to convene without delay." He hesitated, his eyes meeting Eva's. "The only beneficiary of the Marlowe banking legacy is here this evening." A murmur went through the attendees, phones shaking, and the live stream became chaotic. The question arose, who is it? Not Genevieve? Eva subtly touched her sash, her expression unreadable, while her father, watching the live stream, showed a flash of pride. A palpable sense of expectation filled the room, transforming from resentment to amazement as the reality emerged. Grayson advanced, opening the envelope with careful precision. According to his statement, Alfred Marlowe's son, Henry, had been disowned for marrying a woman of Asian descent, a decision made contrary to the family's preferences. Henry and his wife had subsequently raised a daughter in seclusion, away from this society. That daughter is Eva Sinclair. He presented a document, a DNA test result, offering undeniable confirmation of Eva's heritage. According to Alfred's will, Eva is the sole heir to Marlowe and Company, possessing full control of its assets and board. A palpable stillness fell over the hall. Genevieve's emerald necklace seemed suddenly heavy, her face paling. Those guests who had previously mocked Eva appeared visibly uncomfortable, their phones momentarily forgotten. Eva's almond-shaped eyes met Grayson's, her silence radiating a powerful intensity. Her father's tears flowed during the live stream, his exile now appearing justified. The audience felt a surge of emotion, their anger shifting into celebration, as Eva's truth emerged, humbling the elite. The board members seated at the central table stood as one, their faces ashen. Genevieve's voice faltered, This is a mistake. But Grayson's gaze remained firm. The will is final. You and all other Marlowe branches are removed from ownership and the board, effective immediately. A collective gasp swept through the room. Their wealth felt inconsequential, their standing vanished. Beatrice Langley's tiara dislodged, Marcus Vellier's watch ceased to function, Sylvia Reinhardt's couture dress appeared to droop. The live stream became a global phenomenon, with Eva Sinclair dominating social media, her quiet elegance quickly becoming iconic. The downfall of the elite was a striking display, their pride diminished to nothingness under Hans's direction. Genevieve's complexion paled, her emerald necklace appearing like an antique, and her name rose to prominence as a warning. Beatrice Langley's online presence crumbled, her derision becoming a widely shared embarrassment. Marcus Vellier's hedge fund experienced a sharp decline, his dismissiveness a visible failure. Media stocks of Sylvia Reinhardt crashed, her hashtags a social scar. The Spanish Duke's daughter hid her face, her tiara no shield against the live stream's captions. She mocked Eva Sinclair. The staff who'd sneered were escorted out, their careers ended. The guests who'd laughed were shunned, their influence null. Eva stood tall, her low-tied hair a quiet crown, her almond eyes unyielding. The live stream captured the elite's fall, comments flooding. They deserved it, @Eva triumphs. A wave of emotion swept through the audience, shifting anger to a palpable sense of pride. Eva's triumph and Hans's response, a force that diminished the world's wealthiest, resonated deeply. Eva stood, her satin dress shimmering, her almond eyes gentle yet firm. Applause erupted from the audience, mirroring the downfall of the elite's arrogance as it yielded to her understated strength. Hans Berger, the Swiss investment fund chairman, rose from his seat, his movement commanding absolute silence across the hall. You challenged Eva Sinclair, the rightful successor of Marlowe and Company, he stated, his steel-gray eyes blazing. Your wealth, your titles are meaningless when compared to her legacy. He produced his phone, showing a series of canceled deals, banking contracts with Beatrice Langley, investment partnerships with Marcus Vellier, trade agreements with Sylvia Reinhardt, all terminated. Your names have been removed from my fund's network, he announced, his gaze fixed on Genevieve. You have forfeited more than a seat, you have lost your future. The crowd's gasps echoed, their expectations shifting under his command. The live stream quickly became a worldwide trend, with comments appearing rapidly. He's unstoppable. @Eva, justice. Eva appeared composed, her satin dress gleaming, her victory confirmed by Hans' unwavering power. The audience erupted, their spirits lifting as his global retribution humbled the elite's arrogance. Those who'd previously mocked now rose to their feet. With lowered heads and empires seemingly shaken, the heiresses who had discarded napkins fell silent, their private conversations ceasing. The waiter who had previously mocked Eva moved away, his tray visibly trembling. The Monaco princess's cousin removed her post, effectively diminishing her impact. Genevieve's hands shook, her necklace appearing as a memento of a collapsed era. Eva advanced, her voice remaining gentle, as it was upon her arrival. "I don't require diamonds to understand my identity," she stated, her words sharply dividing the atmosphere. "But thank you, as your patronizing glances clarified precisely why my grandfather did not bequeath this empire to you." The hall remained still, no one willing to stir, their derision a diminishing resonance. The audience's esteem grew, Eva's demeanor a flame that consumed the elite's harshness into nothingness. The consequences were swift, a judgment conveyed without utterance. Genevieve's position on the board was terminated. Her name was removed from Marlowe and Compy's history. Beatrice Langley's social reputation declined sharply. Her ridicule became a widely shared embarrassment. Marcus Vellier's hedge fund underwent audits. His derision became a matter of public record. Sylvia Reinhardt's media holdings experienced difficulties. Her promotional labels were deemed inappropriate. Those employees who had previously displayed contempt were let go. Their professional prospects ended. The attendees who had previously expressed amusement dispersed, their invitations were invalidated, and their standing diminished. Eva proceeded towards the large doors, her simple shoes firm, her satin dress a subtle symbol of elegance. Her father's face appeared on the live stream, radiating pride, his daughter's success a reflection of their combined resilience. The spectators' hearts raced, their frustration shifting to admiration, Eva's win a tribute to her poise. The hall's prominent figures stirred, their phones ringing with urgent calls to their staff. "Schedule a meeting with Miss Sinclair," one exclaimed, his voice wavering. "Now," she directs Marlowe, a fact passed around in hushed tones. Her Dior gown offered no defense against reality. The board members lingered, their positions rendered insignificant, their prospects now dependent on Eva's decisions. The live stream documented the disarray, with comments rapidly accumulating. "She appears invincible, having established Eva's guidelines." Eva halted at the entrance, her almond-shaped eyes briefly surveying the room. She was unaccompanied, without security or a retinue. She entered the night, leaving behind a procession of the world's wealthiest individuals vying for her notice, their gestures a quiet acknowledgement of her power. She possessed no aristocratic lineage, no jewelry adorning her wrist, no familiar name among them, but she held one distinction that none at Marlowe Hall did, a heritage that compelled the world's elite to show deference. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this, and tell us in the comments, would you have maintained your silence as Eva did? The moment she arrived on the red carpet, she was dismissed. Her outfit consisted of a simple linen dress, strappy flat sandals, and loose, unstyled hair. She carried a stack of black and white papers in her hand, without a binder or any visible branding. A businesswoman subtly adjusted her Cartier necklace, offered a brief look, and remarked, "Since when do charity galas welcome the locals?" A fashion model turned to her companions and stifled a laugh. "She appears to have stepped out of a public library, not a billionaire ball." Rose Avery stood quietly at the VIP check-in. No one inquired about her name. No one examined the invitation she held. To them, she possessed no worth, merely a fleeting amusement in a glittering room, a woman too quiet, too plain, to be taken seriously. However, they were mistaken. The woman they had just humiliated was the actual owner of the entire gala, and the one who held absolute power over the very ecosystem they depended on. The Avery Global Gala stood as the event of the year, taking place in Washington, D.C. At the luxurious Meridian House, a mansion known for its chandeliers and rich history. More than a fundraiser, it represented a strategic competition where prominent figures, senators, CEOs, celebrities, and media moguls, contended for influence. The guest list was carefully selected, with only 200 invitations extended, each serving as a coveted entry into the upper echelons of American wealth and politics. A palpable excitement filled the atmosphere as attendees awaited news of the largest grants, the most esteemed collaborations, or a favorable review from the Avery Foundation, the powerful entity that dictated funding for areas ranging from education to defense contracts. Rose Avery moved through the gathering discreetly, her canvas backpack resting on her shoulder, her proposal for a complimentary community library held securely beneath it. Months were spent developing the plan, filled with a deep commitment to literacy and empowerment for children in underserved neighborhoods. The soft ivory, second-hand linen dress with its square neck moved gently as she walked. Her sandals made a quiet clicking sound on the marble floor. She chose not to wear makeup, it wasn't necessary. Her face was remarkable in its simplicity, with pronounced cheekbones and eyes that reflected a quiet determination. However, to the gala's guests, she was unnoticed or even a target. The lobby presented a scene of elaborate couture gowns and perfectly tailored tuxedos, with diamonds catching the light. A tech billionaire, sporting a velvet blazer, expressed disdain as Rose walked by, asking, "What's she doing here? Distributing flyers for a bake sale?" A congresswoman's aide, enjoying a glass of champagne, whispered to her superior, "Have they begun inviting anyone who walks in off the sidewalk?" She appears as though she instructs yoga at a local community center. A wave of laughter echoed among their group, precise and critical. Rose remained unfazed. She continued walking, her gaze fixed ahead and her pace even, as though the voices around her were merely ambient sound. Approaching the VIP check-in, an employee wearing a tailored black suit gave her a cursory look. "Name?" he inquired, his voice precise, seemingly certain she wasn't authorized. Rose presented her invitation, a simple card featuring a single, raised A. However, before she could respond, a woman adorned in a sequined gown pushed past her. "Pardon me, I am on the guest registry," the woman stated, displaying a wrist covered in diamonds. A staffer allowed her entry, disregarding Rose completely. "Ma'am," he said, addressing her, "this area is reserved for priority guests. Please try the general seating in the back." Rose acknowledged this, remaining calm, and moved aside. She offered no objections, spoke no protests. She simply stood there, holding her papers, her face calm but resolute. It was then that a young man wearing a well-cut navy suit, Evan Caldwell, the senator's son who has 1 million followers on social media, noticed her. He retrieved his phone, a smirk playing on his lips, and began recording. "Hey, watch this," he said to his live stream, adjusting the camera to focus on Rose. "This woman believes she's attending the Avery Gala wearing a second-hand dress and carrying a pile of printer paper. Seriously, are you planning to present a free library proposal to billionaires? Best of luck, dear." His viewers immediately filled the chat with laughing emojis and mocking remarks. "She's certainly brave," Evan said with a laugh, zooming in on her sandals. "But this is an entirely different level of unrealistic." The audience reacted strongly, their laughter escalating in volume and intensity. A reality TV star, wearing a red dress with a low neckline, joined in the mocking, tossing her hair. "Honey, this isn't a PDA meeting. Go home and change," she said. A hedge fund manager, his cufflinks catching the light, added, "She's probably here to request funding. She should have at least chosen a more appropriate outfit." Rose remained motionless, her eyes following the detailed ceiling trim as if committing it to memory. She offered no reply, avoiding their stares. Her silence wasn't a sign of vulnerability, it was a barrier, unwavering and composed. While Rose waited near the VIP check-in, a cluster of young heiresses in dazzling gowns gathered around her, observing her like predators. One, holding a Chanel purse, glanced at Rose's cloth backpack and scoffed, "Is that her bag? I wouldn't use it to carry my dog's toys." Another approached, her voice laced with malice, "Sweetie, this is the Avery Gala, not a soup kitchen. Why don't you spare us all the discomfort and leave?" Laughter rippled through the room, the sounds bouncing off the marble walls and attracting attention. A photographer positioned nearby quickly captured an image, remarking to his colleague, "This'll go viral. Homeless hippie crashes elite gala." Rose's fingers curled more tightly around her invitation, though she remained silent. Her expression stayed composed, almost otherworldly, as if the comments were water flowing over glass. Despite this, each remark stung, and the visible enjoyment others took in her discomfort felt overwhelming. Within the ballroom, a palpable excitement filled the air. Tables were adorned with crystal stemware, and each centerpiece was a lavish display of orchids and gold leaf. The stage was prominently positioned at the front, enveloped by velvet curtains, where the evening's significant announcement was to be made, the reveal of the gala's primary sponsor, responsible for covering the expenses of the entire event. Many people believed it would be Nathaniel Avery, the solitary billionaire whose corporation Avery Global functioned as an unofficial power, influencing national spending and cultural trends. His lack of public appearances in recent years had only intensified speculation, but tonight, the expectation was that he would appear. Rose secured a seat at the perimeter of the room, close to a utility entrance where servers moved between areas. She placed her papers on the table, carefully smoothing them, and retrieved a small notebook from her backpack to write down some thoughts. The woman beside her, a media heiress wearing a sapphire-encrusted gown, looked over and expressed disbelief. "Are you really writing in a spiral notebook? At the Avery Gala?" Her friend, a pop star with a platinum blonde bob, moved closer. "Perhaps she's recording her feelings about feeling so different." They laughed, not attempting to speak quietly. Rose continued writing, her pen moving smoothly, her face showing intense concentration. The gala began with a string quartet, their music flowing amidst the conversations. The host, a silver-haired TV anchor with a voice like velvet, stepped onto the stage to greet the audience. "Tonight, we celebrate not just philanthropy, but power," he announced, his smile radiant. "The Avery Foundation has influenced our nation's future, education, infrastructure, and policy, and we're here to see who will carry that legacy on." A palpable anticipation filled the room, with many heads turning, trying to locate Nathaniel Avery. Was he observing from a private box at the back? The atmosphere was charged. Throughout the evening, the taunting of Rose continued relentlessly. A cluster of young influencers, positioned near the bar, repeatedly photographed her from a distance, adding captions like "Haha Gala Crasher" and "Who let her in?" Evan Caldwell, continuing his live stream, provided commentary on her every action. She was simply reviewing her documents as if she intended to revolutionize everything. A reminder, you won't receive any funding appearing like that. His online discussion was filled with approving reactions to his humor, encouraging him to continue. A senator's wife, listening nearby, turned to her husband. "It's quite embarrassing, actually. They should increase security measures. People like her diminish the significance of the event." Rose, in the meantime, was listening to the speeches. A technology leader announced a commitment of $5 million for AI research. A congressman pledged $3 million for veterans programs. Each announcement received applause, but Rose's eyes remained focused on her notebook, where she documented observations about literacy gaps in rural schools. When a waiter offered her a glass of champagne, she smiled and requested water instead. "Plant-based diet, huh?" the waiter remarked, half joking. "You're likely the only one here who doesn't eat caviar." Rose chuckled quietly, a first indication of relaxation. "Caviar's overrated," she commented, and returned to her notes. Amidst a pause in the speeches, a well-known lobbyist moved toward Rose's table, his expression difficult to miss. He took her library proposal, examining it as if it were a simple sketch. "Free libraries? For those children," he stated, his voice audible to those at adjacent tables. "Darling, you're misusing everyone's time. Focus on teaching yoga or your current profession." He returned the papers, one page drifting to the floor. As Rose bent to retrieve it, a passing socialite inadvertently crushed it, her stiletto leaving a mark. She chuckled without turning around. The room filled with suppressed laughter, eyes turning to observe Rose's discomfort. She picked up the page, carefully smoothing it, and returned to her seat, her expression composed. However, the atmosphere surrounding her felt oppressive, thick with the audience's amusement at her misfortune. The room's unkindness escalated when Evan and his friends came to her table. The camera continued to record, his smile expansive. "Hey, library lady," he called out, his voice intended to attract attention. "What's your proposal? Free books for kids? That's charming, but this is a different level. You aren't securing a meeting with Nathaniel Avery appearing as if you just emerged from a commune." His companions chuckled, and several adjacent tables echoed the amusement. their laughter rising like a surge. Rose lifted her gaze, her eyes locking with Evan's for the first time. They were bright, unwavering, almost intense. She remained silent, maintaining eye contact until he visibly hesitated, a nervous chuckle escaping him as he addressed his camera. "Tough crowd. Huh?" he mumbled, stepping back. The gala proceeded towards its peak. The host reappeared on stage, his demeanor serious, yet vibrant. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the moment you've all anticipated. The Avery Foundation has consistently been a source of influence, and tonight we announce not only the sponsor of this gala, but the new steward of Avery Global itself, the individual who now oversees its extensive resources, its funding channels, and its vision for America's future." The room fell silent, forks clinking against plates forgotten. Everyone leaned forward, anticipating Nathaniel Avery's imposing figure to appear. Instead, the host extended his arm toward the back of the room. "Please welcome the new owner of Avery Global, the woman now responsible for all political, educational, and media funding pipelines, Ms. Rose Avery." A noticeable reaction went through the crowd, with many people turning to look for a prominent figure in a private area. However, Rose rose to her feet, her linen dress reflecting the light, her sandals making almost no sound on the floor. She approached the stage, still holding her papers, and her hair remained unbound. The room was still, with all eyes focused on her, and many people were visibly surprised. Evan's phone shifted a little, his live stream showing his shocked expression. The businesswoman wearing the Cartier necklace sputtered, coughing on her wine. The model who had previously made fun of her appearance, referencing a library look, became motionless, her hand shaking as she held her clutch. Rose entered the spotlight, appearing exactly as she always did. There was no elaborate gown, no sparkling jewels, just Rose. She placed her documents on the podium and surveyed the audience, her eyes pausing on the first row, on Evan, the influencers, and the senator's wife. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm but carried a weight that filled the room. "Tonight is not simply about raising money, it is about determining who truly deserves funding." She paused, allowing the words to resonate, "Because I am capable of writing a $10 million check, or I can erase your name from this entire ecosystem permanently." As Rose approached the podium, the spotlight illuminated the faint creases in her linen dress, a stark contrast to the room's opulence. She placed her papers on the table, and for a brief instant the audience paused, anticipating a misstep. However, she began to speak, her voice firm, cutting through the quiet. "I am Nathaniel Avery's daughter. For 7 years I have lived among you, unnoticed, to comprehend the world my father's empire influences. Every dollar you have pursued, every agreement you have finalized, every aspiration you have financed, it has been under my observation." The room reacted, faces losing color as the reality became apparent. Evan's phone vibrated in his hand, his live stream now displaying his own collapse. The businesswoman's Cartier necklace sparkled as she held it, her empire suddenly vulnerable. Rose stood firm, her unassuming nature now a symbol of authority, her silent strength unmistakable. The stillness was absolute. Evan's live stream chat filled with question marks and surprised emojis, his viewers struggling to understand what they just witnessed. The senator's wife squeezed her husband's arm, her face drained of color. The media heiress dropped her fork, the clatter reverberating in the quiet. The crowd's astonishment intensified as Rose's words lingered. She raised her head, her eyes meeting the senator's wife who had previously labeled her a detriment to the event. "You believed I was insignificant," she stated, her voice calm yet sharp. "But I'm the one who has been endorsing your grants, validating your initiatives, observing each action you've taken. My father established Avery Global, but I am the one who has been managing it, discreetly until this moment." The room felt smaller, her presence dominating every space. The pop star's platinum bob shook as she understood her latest tour was funded by Rose's endorsement. The tech mogul's wife, who had previously belittled her as someone of lesser status, settled back into her chair, her expression showing fear. Rose's unassuming nature was no longer a source of amusement, it demonstrated her power and influence. Rose remained calm, avoiding any display of triumph, and proceeded with, 7 years ago, my father, Nathaniel Avery, presented me with a choice. To truly understand what the world requires, I've lived among you unnoticed and ordinary. I've taught children to read in crumbling schools. I've eaten meals that cost less than your coffee. I've listened to people you'd never notice, and I've built something substantial. She presented her papers, the library proposal. This is the Quiet Power Initiative, a network of free libraries across America, starting with the kids who need them most. I'm funding it myself, $50 million to start, no grants needed. A hush lingered in the air, some murmuring, others frozen in disbelief. Rose's gaze repeatedly scanned the room, unwavering and determined. However, let me state this plainly. This environment, your initiatives, your endeavors, your reputations are reliant on Avery Global. And I determine who remains within it. Those who create, who contribute, who demonstrate foresight, they will prosper. Those who undermine, who deride, who perceive authority as a trivial pursuit. She stopped, her look directed at Evan, then the influencers, then the businesswoman. Your involvement is terminated. The impact of her words felt devastating. Evan's phone continued recording, though his hand trembled. His scholarship from the Avery Foundation, his White House internship, his entire future seemed to vanish before him. The influencers who had photographed her quickly tried to remove their posts, their faces pale. The senator's wife spoke urgently to her husband, who was already calling his chief of staff, attempting to save their funding. Rose did not pause to observe them. Turning back to the audience, her voice lowered, yet remained authoritative. The Quiet Power Initiative goes beyond books. It's about providing individuals with opportunities to advance, to gain recognition, and to be listened to. I have witnessed the impact of investing in those who are often disregarded. And I am here to ensure that continues, beginning tonight. She descended from the stage, her sandals making a gentle sound, and returned to her place. The chamber filled with a combination of surprised applause and anxious whispers. The host, regaining composure, attempted to introduce the following speaker, but the audience was distracted. Everyone's attention was focused on Rose, who remained seated, calmly reviewing her notebook as if the events hadn't occurred. By morning, the consequences arrived quickly and severely. Evan Caldwell's Avery Foundation scholarship was withdrawn, and his internship was terminated via a brief email from the White House. His live stream, intended as a ridicule of Rose, unexpectedly gained widespread attention for negative reasons, and his name is now linked to arrogance and downfall. Those influencers who had shared her photos were barred from Avery-funded events, and their brand partnerships ended abruptly. The businesswoman, adorned with a Cartier necklace, discovered her company's $20 million education grant had been withdrawn and rerouted to Rose's library program. The senator's wife and her husband encountered a harsh truth. Their favored initiatives, ranging from think tanks to campaign funds, were discontinued, diminishing their impact within a few hours. By morning, the lives of the elite were falling apart. The reality television personality who had instructed Rose to depart received an email. Her Avery-sponsored docuseries, Her Pathway to Credibility, was canceled, and her name was removed from the foundation's list. She looked at her phone, her red dress from the gala discarded on the floor, her career seemingly ruined. The hedge fund manager, who had mocked her attire, discovered his firm's $15 million defense contract had been given to a rival company, a brief message from Avery Global mentioning ethical incompatibility. The cufflinks felt like restraints now, his arrogance a tightening grip. Social media was filled with screenshots of their mockery, now accompanied by captions referencing their downfall, a clear case of karma. Viewers watching Evan's archived live stream celebrated as his confident expression transformed into a representation of his self-destruction, his future seemingly undone by the woman he'd previously dismissed as delusional. Rose, in the meantime, had already begun her work. She convened with community leaders in a small D.C. office, her cloth backpack resting on the floor, her proposal now serving as a detailed plan. The Quiet Power Initiative opened its first library in a neglected neighborhood, with plans for 50 more by year's end. She didn't gloat, didn't seek the spotlight, she just worked, her quiet power reshaping the world one step at a time. The influencers who'd tagged Rose with Gala Crasher were now absent from the elite circle. Their invitations to Avery-backed events, fashion weeks, charity balls, and premieres vanished, and their follower counts plummeted as brands distanced themselves. A tearful apology video was released, but the damage was already done. Rose's team had initiated the process for excluding her from future funding. The photographer who captured Rose's viral humiliation had his press credentials revoked and was dropped by his agency. His moment of notoriety became his downfall. Across the internet, the public celebrated what they perceived as justice. Memes featuring Rose's serene face with the caption, "Never judge the quiet ones," proliferated on all platforms. Those who had previously mocked her sandals now confronted a changed situation. Rose Avery didn't just win, she redefined the landscape, leaving the established order behind. The Gala's elite had dismissed her sandals, her proposals, her aspirations. They perceived her as insignificant. But Rose Avery was far from insignificant. She embodied the future, and she had just reshaped theirs. This is the impact of the overlooked. If this narrative resonated with you, share, comment, and subscribe for more. The moment she entered the boardroom, she drew mocking looks. Her appearance, a crisp white shirt, beige wide-leg trousers, an old laptop, and a neat, half-up hairstyle, seemed to invite derision in a room dominated by Armani suits and Swiss watches. The occupants' gazes sharp and critical. Whispers arose, "Look at that outfit." Some even joked, someone must have sent the intern from the events team by mistake. They were mistaken, as the woman they had just humiliated was the spouse of the man overseeing a $100 million investment fund, and he had resolved that no money would be allocated to anyone who showed her disrespect. The boardroom at the top of the Sterling Tower shone with authority, with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Manhattan's skyline, a polished mahogany table reflecting the morning sun, and air that smelled faintly of leather and ambition. Crystalis Group, a leading force in luxury real estate, had requested architects from across the world to present proposals for their flagship project, a $2 billion eco-resort in the Maldives designed to reimagine sustainable luxury. Executives in tailored suits observed as evaluators, their cufflinks gleaming, their expressions conveying practiced indifference. Tablets displayed spreadsheets, and a large screen stood behind them, ready to showcase presentations that held the potential to significantly impact professional trajectories. Alina Moore entered through the double doors, her beige trousers swaying gently, her white shirt crisp and unadorned. Her dark hair was styled in a neat half-updo, with a few strands framing her face, and her hazel eyes held a quiet intensity. She carried a worn leather portfolio of hand-drawn sketches, an old laptop tucked under her arm, and she was unaccompanied. At 34, she appeared striking, elegant in her simplicity, her beauty like a clear stream cutting through stone. Years ago, her eco-resort concept, a small project in Costa Rica, had attracted attention within the industry, its quiet excellence discussed in design circles. That's why Crystalis had invited her, or so she believed. She placed her portfolio on the table, her actions measured, and offered a composed smile. "Good morning," she stated, her voice clear and even. "I'm Alina Moore, here to present my vision for your resort." The room showed little movement. A man in a charcoal suit, his tie a vibrant crimson, briefly looked up from his phone. Victor Crane, the project director, reclined, his expression wry. "We anticipated a design firm," he stated, his voice resonating, "not a Pinterest freelancer." A wave of laughter, frigid and precise, passed as executives subtly looked at each other. As Alina remained standing at the table, Victor Crane angled himself towards Sylvia Holt, his voice audible throughout the room. He stated, loud enough for everyone to hear, "She's got some nerve, showing up with a laptop older than my car." The executives laughed, their eyes showing their disapproval as they observed her adjusting her sketches. A man wearing a pinstripe suit threw a paper clip toward her portfolio, smiling as it landed on her drawings. "Decorate that," he said to the freelancer, which caused more laughter. Sylvia responded with a smirk, adding, "Maybe she's here to pitch a lemonade stand." Phones snapped pictures of her older laptop, accompanied by cruel whispers. She appeared to be mortifying herself. Alina's fingers hesitated, yet her face remained composed, her composure a sharp contrast to their hostility. Alina's expression remained unchanged. She presented her portfolio, displaying sketches filled with luminosity. Curved roofs, integrated with coral reefs, open-air villas touched by sea breezes. My work speaks for itself, she stated, pushing a page towards Victor. He made no attempt to view it, his gaze focusing on her attire. You honestly believe you can make a good impression on international investors dressed like that? He stated. Sylvia Holt moved closer, her diamond earrings catching the light as she regarded Alina with a look of concern. Darling, this is a global project, she explained, her voice conveying a sense of disappointment. You can't simply appear like that. She indicated Alina's trousers, and a ripple of amusement spread around the table. Did you even attempt to present a professional image? A woman nearby scoffed. She's giving garage sale vibes. As others filmed, their phones focused on Alina's flats. Sylvia continued, we deal with titans, not hobbyists. Save us the slideshow. The room erupted, the applause laced with mockery as Alina opened her laptop, her movements calm, her silence a defense against their criticism. Another executive, a woman named Sylvia Holt with diamonds sparkling at her ears, sighed dramatically. Let's not waste time, Victor. She's clearly out of her depth. A palpable change filled the room. Their disapproval now felt tangible. A junior executive, Ethan Wells, his Rolex watch prominently displayed, leaned forward with a smirk. What's with the second-hand style? Did you get that shirt from your mother? Ethan Wells rose, his Rolex catching the light as he gestured towards Alina's sketches, his expression mocking. What are these? Are these illustrations from a children's book? He announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. I've seen more impressive artwork at my child's preschool. The executives reacted with derision, one discarding a crumpled napkin towards her portfolio, exclaiming, frame that masterpiece. Ethan moved nearer, his voice laced with mockery, asking, you believed you'd make an impression? Stick to knitting, sweetheart. Mobile phones were raised, documenting her blurred sketch, their laughter echoing as a unified sound. Alina's hand remained on her laptop, her expression resolute, yet the atmosphere became oppressive under their mockery, her dignity the focus of their amusement. A ripple of amusement, phones quietly raised, documented her simple trousers and worn flats. Alina remained still, her hands gently placed on her laptop, her eyes scanning the table. None of you have examined my proposal, she stated, her voice calm, nearly soft. You're evaluating me based on my appearance, not my abilities. You will later wish you had not. Victor's laughter was abrupt, like shattering glass. Regret, dear, we don't wager on inexperienced individuals. He gestured dismissively, rejecting her sketches without looking at them. Crystalis focuses on building empires, not small ventures. You have 5 minutes to present before we proceed to serious applicants. Sylvia smiled, tapping her pen, stressing the need for brevity, as qualified architects were awaiting review. The assembled group watched intently, anticipating a misstep, their murmurs reflecting skepticism. Alina nodded calmly and opened her laptop, the screen displaying a faint flicker due to its age. She commenced, her voice even, detailing a resort that integrated nature with luxury, solar lattices powering infinity pools, rainwater systems nourishing vertical gardens. Her sketches, displayed on the screen, were stunning, each line a tribute to the earth. However, the executives showed little interest. Ethan used his phone, Sylvia examined her nails, and Victor cut her off mid-presentation. That's enough, he stated, his tone uninterested. This is a dream, not a plan. We need scope, not artisanal details. As Alina started her pitch, the executives became more assertive, their comments blending into a harsh chorus. One woman, wearing a silk blazer, questioned, is she truly using that laptop? It appeared antiquated, prompting gasps and laughter. A man carelessly discarded a sugar packet from the coffee tray, observing its descent near her drawings. Add some style, dear, he taunted as others applauded, calling, go back to the suburbs. Smartphones captured everything, their cameras unforgiving, presenting Alina as naive. She continued speaking, her voice clear, but their taunts overwhelmed her, a group enjoying what they perceived as her failure. Alina's eyes momentarily shifted, but her demeanor remained steady, a restrained intensity visible within. The rejection was immediate and harsh. Sylvia moved closer, her smile malicious. You do not meet our requirements, Alina. Perhaps consider a local community center in the future. Ethan laughed, throwing a pen in the direction of her sketches. Yes, focus on decorating lofts. Leave resorts to professionals. The pen traveled across her portfolio, blurring a sketch, and the room erupted in laughter, their voices cutting. Alina shut her laptop, her actions deliberate, and collected her documents. She remained silent, showed no reaction. Her gaze met Victor's, calm yet intense, as if she could see into his thoughts. While she organized her belongings, a junior executive named Lila Chen, her suit impeccably tailored and her confidence even more so, interjected. Frankly, it takes courage to present yourself this way, she commented, her tone laced with condescension. However, courage doesn't secure deals. Presentation is key and you're falling short. Lila Chun crossed her arms, her suit crisp and her tone direct, addressing Alina as if she were a child. Look, she said, her voice carrying and precise, it's charming that you attempted this. But this is Chrysalis, not a startup incubator. You don't belong here, she gestured at Alina's shirt, which drew amused laughter. Next time, perhaps hire a stylist or engage a professional firm. A man called out or simply remain at home. His companions chuckled, one flicking a straw wrapper toward her table. Recycle that pitch, he called, and the room immediately filled with noise. Alina carefully collected her sketches, her actions deliberate. However, their unkindness lingered, their phones sharing her embarrassment. She indicated Alina's clothing, which prompted further laughter. A man positioned at the table's far end, with his tie slightly undone, exclaimed, "Wager she's here for the complimentary coffee." The room erupted in laughter. Their phones were now recording, capturing her old laptop and a sketch with smudges, portraying her as an object of ridicule. Alina rose, her portfolio held securely, and offered a quiet smile. "Thank you for your time," she said, her voice soft but resonant. She retrieved her phone, her fingers steady, and initiated the call. The room grew quieter, the occupants observing despite their attempts at nonchalance. "Honey," she said, her tone warm yet distinct, "they disapproved of my design. Perhaps I ought to present it to Novaland instead." She waited, paying attention to the response, then nodded. "All right, see you soon." The executives looked at one another, their expressions changing. Victor moved closer, his forehead creased. "Novaland," he stated, his voice sharp. "What's that supposed to mean?" Alina remained silent, her expression unchanged, as she placed her phone into her pocket. The boardroom doors opened, and a man entered, tall and impeccably dressed in a black suit tailored to perfection. His dark hair was neatly swept back, and his gray eyes surveyed the room with a predator's calm. This was Julian Sterling, the billionaire founder of Sterling Ventures, a $100 million fund capable of influencing markets with minimal effort. A palpable shift in the atmosphere signaled his arrival. Julian moved with purpose, traversing the room without a sound, disregarding the expressions of the executives. His gaze settled on Alina, briefly displaying warmth, and he halted near her, his hand lightly touching hers. The room fell silent, pens clattering to the floor, tablets left untouched. Victor's smirk disappeared, his complexion losing color. Sylvia's diamonds appeared lackluster, her assurance faltering. Julian's phone fell from his grasp, striking the table with a sharp sound. Julian addressed the room, his voice low and resonant, like a storm. "I've decided to invest only in companies that treat my wife with respect," he stated. "You just lost your opportunity." A heavy silence fell over the room, followed by a sudden uproar. Victor rose quickly, stammering, "Mr. Sterling, we didn't know." Sylvia interrupted, her voice sharp. "This is a misunderstanding." Ethan appeared flustered. "We were simply being honest." Julian did not acknowledge them. His gaze remained fixed on Alina, who stood calmly, her portfolio still held in her arms. She didn't need to say anything. Her mere presence was sufficient, a silent strength that revealed their harshness. Phones vibrated, screens illuminating as an email arrived in every inbox at the table. The subject line was striking. "Novaland secures exclusive contract with Alina Moore." The message itself was concise and impactful. Novaland, Crystalis Group's fiercest rival, had unexpectedly exited the Maldives bidding process, adopting Alina's design as their premier project. Her sketches, which had been ridiculed only moments earlier, now formed the core of a $2 billion agreement, fully supported by Sterling Ventures. All attention shifted to Alina, with expressions of surprise, remorse, and apprehension visible on onlookers' faces. The boardroom erupted in disarray as Julian's words took effect, Victor's complexion paling, his crimson tie seeming to tighten. Phones vibrated with pressing calls, investors withdrawing funds, stocks decreasing 10% within minutes. Sylvia's diamonds shook as she hesitated, her tablet displaying postponed meetings, her connections dissolving. Ethan's Rolex appeared excessive, his confidence diminished as his firm's worth plummeted, rumors of audits spreading. The Novaland email appeared more intensely, Alina's name now prominent, her sketches gaining popularity as brilliant. The Crystalis Empire, founded on presumption, fractured because of her understated honesty, their reputation lost due to their own actions. She advanced, her footfall soft on the marble floor, and confronted the room. "I did not come here seeking a contract," she stated, her voice composed and direct. "I came because I expected to be afforded professional courtesy." She hesitated, allowing the statement to resonate, her hazel eyes scanning the table. "You decided to evaluate me based on my attire, not my abilities. That proved to be your error." Victor Crane stood, his crimson tie a sharp contrast as he waved Alina off, his voice carrying. "We're done here," he declared, interrupting her pitch. "You're wasting our time with this vision board nonsense." He smirked, indicating her portfolio. "Take your drawings and leave. We require successful individuals, not fantasizers." The room erupted in applause, one executive calling out, "Consider a craft fair," as another playfully tossed a coffee stirrer at her laptop, adding, "Modernize that old machine." Derisive comments circulated quickly, broadcast on internal chats, dismissing her as unsuccessful. Alina shut her portfolio, maintaining a composed expression, though their derision felt like a sharp cut with each comment. She turned, carrying her portfolio, with Julian beside her, his hands offering support on her back. The executive team reacted with a flurry of activity, their voices merging. Victor called out, "Alina, let's discuss this." Sylvia's heels tapped as she rose. "We might change our decision." Alina proceeded without hesitation, offering no farewell. The doors shut definitively behind her, the sound echoing like a conclusive judgment. The boardroom remained in a state of chaos, Crystalis's future uncertain, and Crystalis stock dropped sharply within hours. News reports declared, "Blunder costs Crystalis $2 billion, board resigns." As evening arrived, the executives confronted the consequences. Victor was removed from his position by the board, his reputation tarnished within real estate circles, his confident expression now a fading recollection. Sylvia's firm terminated her contract, clients referencing questionable decision-making. Her diamonds were pawned by the end of the month. Lila's startup pitch was rejected, investors withdrawing support following the widespread dissemination of videos showcasing her insults. Ethan's hedge fund failed, his Rolex sold to settle outstanding debts. The hashtag erased Ethan gained worldwide popularity. Their mistreatment of Alina, initially a source of amusement, ultimately led to their downfall, with each individual now associated with her success, and her vision becoming a guiding light for Novaland's ascent. Several individuals withdrew, board members submitted their resignations, and the Maldives project, formerly envisioned as their lasting achievement, ultimately became Novaland's success. Alina and Julian entered the elevator, the cityscape extending beneath them. He regarded her, his voice low, "You all right?" She returned a smile, her eyes reflecting the light, "Always." No further explanation was necessary. Their connection, subtle yet resolute, conveyed more than any agreement ever could. The elevator moved downwards, creating a sense of disorientation, Crystalis's descent resonating, Alina's perception growing stronger, her reality a clear and undeniable force. If this narrative evoked an emotional response, please leave a comment, and subscribe for further content.